This hunt means more to me than any other hunt I've ever been on. And here's the story. Grizzly bear right there. He's coming in.
That's what elk hunting's all about. Hard work. Did I get him?
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
That's a giant. That's a giant.
It's a giant bull.
It is my very first day out hunting this year. Fall 2022 is officially started. September 7th, I'm in Wyoming. I've been looking forward to drawing this tag for a long time. Been scouting this unit online a whole bunch. I was in it a little bit last fall, and I'm just super pumped to see what's in here. I hiked back about 2 miles so far this morning. Dad's driving out tonight. I'm gonna pick him up down at the road. We're gonna come back and hike in probably first thing in the morning, way back into this spot, and hopefully have an awesome hunt. I'm really looking forward to it. Weather's looking perfect, moon's looking perfect. Now I just need to go find some elk. So one of my goals for today was to make it up to the saddle, and around noon I made it up there. When I was looking back to where I just came from, I looked down to this one meadow that I didn't hit, and I saw a bunch of wallows. So I hiked down here, and sure enough, 6 fresh wallows. It looks like they probably hit them last night. There's fresh tracks, a couple fresh rubs just down here. So I think this is definitely gonna be a spot I'm gonna key in on in the next couple days. It's been a couple hours since I found those wallows. Good bedding area to my north. Looks really good. I'm way above it, and just let out a bugle to see if anything was down there. Bull responded the opposite direction on the other side of that meadow with the wallows, and it's about 3 o'clock, and I gotta go pick my dad up at about 7:30 or 8, so I feel like I just gotta go after him, and I'm kind of working toward the truck anyway, so I think I'm gonna go for it.
As I'm tearing through the woods, going after this bull that I heard bugling, I was going way too fast, faster than I should have been, and I bumped another bull. A totally different one was bedded on top of this knob. I was only about 80 to 100 yards away, and I was just tearing through the trees. He saw me, busted out of there, ran as fast as he could the other direction, and that's when I learned I needed to slow down if I was gonna get a shot at this bugling bull.
Man, that's exciting to know there's elk in the area. I'm waiting for the wind to switch or cooperate a little bit where I can bugle and try to slip in on this one that's still talking.
As I continue to slip closer, the bull bugles once again. Thinking he's a couple hundred yards off, I immediately bugle back. But it turns out he's much closer. As I peer through the trees with my binoculars looking for them, I spot a couple cows only about 50 yards away. And at that point, I knew the bull was much closer and was most likely with those cows. As I looked a little bit more, I could barely see this bull's whale tail through the trees and could barely pick out his body through the thick pine trees. Although I was in range, I did not have a shot as I could barely see these elk through the thick brush. Because I had just bugled, the entire herd was looking my direction, and because they couldn't see the elk that just made that sound, they got wise, and the cows went over the crest, and the bull followed. As soon as these elk crested over the hill, I snuck up behind them, hoping to pop over that rise and maybe have a shot opportunity. Once again on this stalk, I was going too fast. The wind was swirling and I didn't want them to catch my scent, so I popped over this rise immediately, and there was a cow right there under 30 yards.
Dang, so close. Oh, that was so close just now. I think he was maybe 50, 55 yards, so he's still pretty close. At least I know there's elk in here, and I've been seeing a lot more sign after I just saw those. There's rubs all over the place in here, so we're definitely coming back in here tomorrow morning. We hiked back in here and got camp set up about mid-morning. Since then, we've just been kind of still hunting through some of this timber. Unfortunately, right when we started, we had to get to the top of this rise. The wind was blowing up, and there must have been an elk, or I think it was a bull actually, bedded at the top, and he busted out of there. But since then we haven't seen or heard anything. I'm set up on this meadow that I found a wallow in last night when I was chasing that other bull, and it doesn't look like it's been hit super fresh. Probably not in the last day or maybe 2 days, but you never know when something might run through here.
No elk were spotted on day 2 of the hunt.
It's the morning of day 3. We slipped up to some of these meadows this morning up above where we're camped down below. And on the second meadow, there's a bull in there. Nice, younger, 5-point, but I definitely would have shot him. He was at 107 yards when I first saw him, and he was looking back at us. And he heard us walking through the timbers. Completely dead silent this morning. No bugles, no birds, no wind, nothing. So he ended up working the other direction, and I never got any closer. But it's good. It's a sign that there's still a bull in here. We just checked some of these wallows at this big meadow, and it looks like they've been hit recently, probably last night. So there's definitely still some elk in here. I think I might have busted the original group that got closed out of here, because I've not heard a thing since then, almost 2 days ago. So yeah, that didn't go very far at all.
Dense fog and rain kept the calling suppressed and the elk movement to a minimum.
It's about 5:30 now. We've just been still hunting all day. Haven't seen anything since that bull early this morning. We're back on this big meadow with 6 fresh wallows. Looks like an elk hit him last night, and that bull that we saw this morning looked pretty clean, so I don't know if it was him or a different bull that was in here, but I think these elk travel a lot. They could easily be 2 miles away right now, but just hoping for something to come in. It's so foggy I can barely even see across. It's not been a good day for elk movement. I think they're just all bedded down and staying quiet. I've not heard a single elk in the past 2 days.
As I sit next to this meadow, Dad's about 10 yards behind me, and we start hearing some branches breaking and twigs snapping across the meadow from us. And I'm thinking there's a bull up there raking a tree. When he gets done with that, he's gonna come down to the meadow and give me a shot. So I'm getting excited. I'm grabbing my bow and I'm looking hard across the meadow through the fog, trying to pick out this animal that I think's an elk. Time passes on, 5 minutes go by, I don't hear anything, and then some more twigs start snapping a little bit further to my left. And as time goes on, 1, 2, 3 minutes later, more twigs to the left, more twigs to the left, and I can tell this animal is working the edge of this meadow. Our wind's cutting down that direction, so I'm thinking if he keeps going along that same path, he's gonna catch our wind and bust out of there and spook. He's getting pretty close now, but I still can't see the animal at all. But as the sounds got closer and closer to our downwind direction, I quit hearing it, so I figured he smelled us and spooked. About 10 minutes goes by and I don't hear any more noises, so I'm thinking that animal smelled us and got out of there. Until I hear the words whispered that I'll never forget. And again, Dad's about 10 yards behind me. I hear him whisper, "Micah, bear." Oh boy. As I turn my head to look in that direction, I simultaneously see this huge grizzly bear lift up his head and stare directly at us under 30 yards. I can see him perfectly through the gap in the pine trees. Now we came prepared for this exact moment. Dad and I both have pistols and we both have bear spray, but we weren't expecting to have an encounter that close, that fast. Only 30 yards away, this bear could be on us in seconds, but thankfully, as soon as he was looking directly at us, under 30 yards from me and under 20 from my dad, he noticed that we were humans and he took off running the other direction as fast as he could. I'm so glad he took off the other direction because he was gone in a flash. He was so fast, and if he would have came our direction, it would have been tough to get everything ready and point in his direction before he was on us.
That's when he saw you. He looked at me and he just took off. Yeah, he went like that way, didn't he? Yeah. the same thing, because I thought I heard one rubbing way up there, and then I heard sticks breaking back here. So I don't know if it was the same thing or different. You're like, bear, and I turned around and I could see his head like this big right through a hole in the trees. There he is. I was like, is it a brown bear? Is it a black bear? Is it a grizzly? And then I knew right away when I looked. It was definitely a grizzly. I wonder how far away he ran.
That would be he'd shoot an elk. There's a good chance he'd claim it the next night.
A couple hours if he's around here. Yeah.
Because he had his head on the ground, he was doing something.
Oh, really?
And when I turned around, and then I got up, and that's when he looked at me. But never expecting one thing. I didn't think there were many.
I didn't think so either.
Also back in.
How big do you think he was?
He looked plenty big to me. He had a big head on him. Not a huge head, but yeah.
He looked, I
guess he was a smaller thing.
which is usually the most dangerous ones besides the South Coast, because so that's good that he took off right away. That was kind of one of my things on my bucket list, was to see a grizzly. Now we just need to kill an elk. Then my bucket list is complete. Because you were right behind them. Yeah.
So he was here,
Somewhere in here, probably. Yeah. It's about 20. Well, that just happened. Bear was right there like 20 yards. Not a giant bear, but definitely a really good sized grizzly. But that was intense. I'm glad we were prepared and could hear him breaking the branches and stuff. Glad he was loud and walking through the trees. I think we're gonna sit for a little while longer, but try to get out of here before dark. We're just slipping through the trees this morning, and we heard some noises, breaking branches and stuff across the valley. And we listened for a while, and it sounds exactly like that bear did last night, just pawing in the dirt and breaking branches and breaking roots, looking for grubs. So pretty much 100% sure it's a bear, just across, probably 300 yards away. So at least we know where he's at, if that's the same one we saw last night. But no elk this morning so far.
The elk seemingly left this basin, so he packed up camp midday and headed over to the next spot that I pre-scouted on the map.
We just got to the top of this knob and we just heard a bugle down here. Not sure if it's a hunter or a bull, but I'm gonna bugle back. It sounded really good, so I think it's a real elk. That's a bull. That's a bull down there. That's a bull. Yeah, that's an elk. Yeah. He's not very far away. This bull keeps bugling down here about every minute or two. So they can hear, but we've already gained probably 100 yards on him. He's right down there.
I slowly slipped closer to this bugling bull, step by step, inching my way toward him.
Just hit a cow. Right there at 8 yards. She went down, made a loop, and went back up the hill. I don't know if the bull was up the hill, or I keep hearing an elk hooves or something smacking the ground over here.
After waiting for over 5 hours for this bull to bugle again or show himself so I could slip in for a shot, I decided to take a different route and try something new.
We've been after this bull about 6 hours now. Haven't seen him at all. And when I was raking that tree a little while ago,
No elk were spotted or heard the remainder of day 4, and we never ended up seeing that bugling bull.
Morning of day 5. My water purifier quit working last night, so we're running super low on water, so we're gonna have to head back to the truck. We're just moving down the mountain now. I got about 1.5 miles left. Well, we hiked all the way back out to the truck, got down to Dad's vehicle. Thankfully, he brought an extra water purifier, grabbed that, decided we were gonna go to a new spot, drove an hour down the road. Didn't really like what we were seeing, so we drove an hour back. As we were getting our stuff rounded up and ready to head back in, a local guy with his horse came up the trail and was telling us about a good spot that he'd been in the past 6 or 7 days, and he actually had 5 different bulls bugling all around his tent last night, and he had a couple close encounters with a few different bulls over the past few days. So super thankful for him giving us a good tip, and we hiked back in here about 3 or 4 miles, got camp set up, and hopefully we're in a good spot now.
The majority of day 5 was spent hiking in and out of country and scouting out our new spot for the following day.
We always hang our food 10 to 12 feet up in a tree and try to get it 4 feet away from the trunk, and about 100 yards or so downwind from our tents and our camping setup, which at night is going to be lower in elevation. So we try to get it somewhere lower, but somewhere where we can still see it from a long ways away if it's been messed with overnight or anything. And then we always eat wherever we keep our food and never eat by camp, and try to keep all our food scent off of our clothes and backpack and everything, because bears have a really good nose. Day 6, we finally heard some bugles last night. After he went to bed, he probably bugled 15 or 20 times in the first hour or 2, but haven't heard him since. We're gonna go explore this new area and see if we can find something today.
The crisp morning mountain views from elk country in September are simply incredible.
We were hearing what sounded like elk hooves in the dirt, breaking sticks and breaking branches and stuff. So we were slipping down this slope really quietly, trying to sneak in. And it turns out there's a squirrel really high in the tree just tossing pine cones out of it. And the pine cones were hitting logs and rocks and stuff like that, making a whole bunch of noise, making it sound like it was elk. But there's quite a bit of fresh sign in here, a lot of fresh rubs on this north-facing bench. So hopefully we're in them. We haven't heard anything yet today. Found a moose shed. Not very big, but it's pretty cool. Let's pick this thing up. It's still pretty heavy for how small it is. That's awesome. I was hoping to find a shed back here.
After hiking through a bunch of this new country the morning of day 6, not hearing any elk and not seeing any elk, and honestly not really seeing much sign in this new spot, we decided to take a little rest midday, lay underneath some pine trees and just kind of hang out for a little bit. So I'm kind of laying there thinking to myself, okay, it's day 6 of an 8-day hunt. I don't have much time left. What am I gonna do to put myself in the best position for success? Because time's running out. You know what? I don't care if it's warm and windy. I only have 2 more days left in this hunt. I have to give it everything I've got. So we set out about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Again, 75 plus degrees out, pretty warm out. We're on this south facing slope in this new spot, which I usually don't hunt, especially when it's this warm. But I'm thinking, you never know what's gonna happen. So we're gonna go out and try. So this spot has a couple different meadows going up the side of this hill. Again, south facing slope, not something I'm expecting an elk to really be in at this heat and this time of September. But we go to each edge of this meadow and let out a bugle. Dad's bugling, and we go to 4 different meadows, each about probably 400 yards apart, something like that. And we're just working up this hill on this mountainside. and we're not seeing any sign at all, any elk sign. We're seeing just a little bit of moose sign, but just, I mean, not even an elk track, no wallows, 0 rubs, no elk sign whatsoever. And I'm thinking, you know, at least we tried. Not the best spot, I guess, but we learned something. And like I said, we're on the 4th meadow, and I'm ready to turn around and head back down and try a new spot. But we looked on our maps, and there was one more meadow up ahead of us, and Dad's like, let's just go up there, try one more time. We're gonna go to that meadow and bugle and just try one more time. So I'm like, okay, you know, whatever, we can give it a shot, might as well, right? So we go to the edge of this meadow like we had before. I'm not really ready. I hadn't seen any sign at all. So we're just kind of goofing off a little bit more than anything, and Dad lets out a bugle, and it's one of those bugles that you just gotta laugh at a little bit. I've had plenty of them myself. It just doesn't quite come out right, and he bugled, and we were just kind of laughing a little bit. Just a couple seconds after Dad bugles and we're laughing, we hear an elk bark, and I can't believe it. Usually an elk bark means that they're spooked and that they're getting out of there, kind of like a whitetail blowing at you. But in this case, it wasn't that call. I was still in disbelief, wasn't really sure, is that actually an elk or is that something else that I'm hearing? But I knew I had to get ready, so I'm kind of moving up toward the meadow to maybe get a little bit of better of a shot opportunity if it is an elk. Dad's kind of moving back behind me to get some cover behind some pine trees if he does need a call. So I'm knocking my arrow, kind of taking a step and knocking it at the same time, moving up toward this meadow. And as I'm doing that, I kind of look up ahead of me just to see if there actually is an elk, kind of look in that direction, and I couldn't believe my eyes. I looked up in the meadow and I saw the biggest, most beautiful sight I've ever seen in the wild ever. I couldn't believe it. This huge, immaculate, giant bull elk at 50 yards staring directly at us in this sunlit, beautiful meadow. It was picture perfect. It was unbelievable, and my heart was going absolutely bonkers. I could barely get my arrow knocked, fiddling with it, trying to get it on the rest and trying to get up ahead of so I can get a shot opportunity and everything, and trying to get my release on, and I'm just going nuts, and this bull's looking at us because he thinks we're an elk, and I'm just like hoping my dad sees, and I just freaking out because I could not believe this encounter that was going down in front of us. It was amazing. So I finally get my arrow on, I'm trying to get my release on, I get it on, and I get up to the edge of this meadow. I don't have a perfect shot. I'm looking at this bull through this pine tree, this little one that's right in front of me, but he's looking at me. He doesn't know that I'm a hunter, that I'm a human. He still thinks that there's an elk. So Dad just does a couple really soft bugles.
He's coming in.
And this bull barks at us and barks at us and barks at us. And in this situation, this bark means, hey, show yourselves or get out of here. Like, who's there? This is my turf. Either come out, challenge me, and we're gonna fight, and I'm gonna show you who's boss, or get out of here. That's what that bull's saying with those barks. That's why he keeps barking at us and not running away. And so time goes on, and I'm just going bonkers. And this bull is just staring at us, facing on. Like I said, I'm looking through this pine tree, so I don't have a shot, and I'm shooting a resistance release. And I don't know if everybody's familiar with that or not, but basically the way that works is you just pull back with resistance and tension, and that's what lets the release fire. So I'm kind of holding like this, putting a little bit of string pressure on, and there's a safety on that release, and I'm shaking so bad that my thumb slips off the safety, and there's just enough tension because I'm pulling back on that string that it's actually releasing the release, and the arrow just goes bonk and goes through my rest, and I have to grab it and reach up, put it back on the string. That happens 3 times. I'm sitting there shaking so bad, bonk, almost falls to the ground. Got to grab the arrow before it falls to the ground. So I'm just like moving like crazy, and I'm thinking this bull is gonna just see me and run and just spook out of here, and just leave. And I am going absolutely insane. And I just still can't believe this giant bull, biggest bull elk I've ever seen in my entire life, is staring at me at 50 yards in this beautiful sunlit meadow. It was just unbelievable. So a couple minutes goes by, the bull gets more and more curious. Dad throws out a couple really soft cow calls, and he barks at us again, more like, you know, okay, it's a bull and a cow back there in the trees is what he's thinking. Who is this bull and why is he in my territory, type of thing. So he starts working a little bit to the right, and then he stops again, and he's still facing me. I'm still behind this little pine tree. I can't really take a step. And a couple minutes goes by, he doesn't give me a shot. I'm just trying to stay as patient as possible in this situation. And so I tell my dad, hey, rake a tree just real lightly. And so he just kind of starts raking the tree, and that bull perked up and he thought, oh boy, you're raking a tree in my turf? Yeah, you're gonna get out of here, buddy, is what he's probably thinking. So he's kind of taking a turn to my right, which is exactly what I need him to do to get in this opening where I have a shot. So he's probably about 40 yards at this point, walking to the right, and I am losing my mind. And I remember thinking from 2 years ago in Colorado, where I missed a really big bull, where I should have just taken a half step in front of me. When I was drawn back to get out of the way from this limb, I ended up hitting a limb and missing that bull. So I said to myself, I'm not letting that happen again. So that's exactly what I did. I drew back and take half a step, and right as I'm taking that step, starting to get my pins on him, he spooks and takes off and runs out of there. And I can't believe it. At this point, I'm honestly not even disappointed. I'm so jacked up from the amazing encounter that just happened. I was just totally blown away at what just went down, and I just saw the biggest bull on the south-facing slope in the heat, in the middle of the day. I just couldn't believe it. So I'm just thankful for the opportunity, and a little disappointed that I didn't get him, but just so charged up that I'm in the game, we're in the game, we've got a bull here, we know where he's at, we can go back after him tonight or tomorrow. And so I can kind of hear this bull working away from us. He kind of makes a loop, goes on top of this ridge, and he's probably about 150 yards or so at this point, kind of works the top of this ridge in the timber, and I can just barely catch glimpses of him, sunlight kind of shining on him as he's moving through the trees, and he kind of stops up there. He's still right up there, let's be quiet. What? I don't know what to do. Okay. There he is. He might come back in. So Dad bugles, I believe, one more time, and this bull comes straight into the meadow. He comes working down the timber, and I just couldn't believe it. He's coming back in, and I told myself this time, I'm gonna make it happen. It's gotta happen. He's not really wanting to commit. Again, he's facing us, trying to pick us out, trying to see what we are. And he stands there for what seems like forever. I'm sure it was about a minute or two, and just stares at us and stares at us and barks and stares at us and barks some more.
Dead call.
And finally, this bull cuts back to the right, so I drew back and finally got the shot opportunity that I've been dreaming about my whole life. Unfortunately, the bull ducks at the sound of the arrow, and I hit him a little bit high, put him down, put another shot in him.
Dad, did I get him?
Yeah,
Did I
you
get
got it. You got it.
That's a
Go through
giant.
blood.
That's a giant.
It's a giant bull.
That's a
You're a little high.
I know, he ducked. I need to get another arrow.
Yeah.
I get another arrow.
Ended up having to put a couple more vital shots in him.
That's a huge bull.
Just a super old, tough, mature elk. It's crazy how tough they are. And sometimes it doesn't take one or two arrows in the vitals. Sometimes it takes multiple in the heart and lungs to get them down quickly. And that was a case here. Dad and I are extremely excited, but also on super high alert. As we walk up on this bull, we're extremely thankful for the opportunity, and I am beyond excited for what just went down. But at the same time, we're in grizzly bear country, and it's starting to get dark out, and we need to move fast. So for that reason, I didn't take any video whatsoever with the bull. We took pictures for maybe 45 seconds tops. Gave the camera to Dad. He just snapped a couple of really awesome photos of me behind the bull, and we got to cutting it up and getting it out of there as fast as possible. When you're hunting in grizz country, you have to be extremely mindful of your surroundings at all times, and this bull died just inside the timber outside of this meadow in some pretty thick deadfall and stuff. So if there was a bear that was smelling this carcass and coming into it, we weren't gonna see them until they were right on top of us. So we were super, super cautious. I would look around a little bit. I would have my pistol or bear spray ready. We'd be ready to go. I would help them cut for a second. We always had one person with their eyes up looking around, which was a little bit difficult to really skin out a huge animal like this basically with one person, but I would try to help a little bit, then look around a little bit. Dad would look around a little bit, I would cut a little bit, and we'd just do that as fast as possible without being dangerous with our knives and cutting ourselves. But we were trying to get this animal broken down as quickly and efficiently as we could. Now, I've skinned a couple animals before, but I could not believe how fast my dad got this animal broken down. He's been hunting the majority of his life, and he's skinned a lot of animals before and quartered a lot out. And I'm really glad he was with me at that moment, because he pretty much quartered that entire thing mainly by himself with a little bit of my help when I wasn't looking for bears in I think about 30 to 45 minutes, which is just crazy fast for breaking down an elk. Got the head off, got hindquarters off, back straps, tenderloins, everything off in about 45 minutes, and we got that in the game bags and we got it away from the carcass as fast as possible. And right as night was falling, we were walking away from it. We marked it on the map exactly where it was so we could find it the next day, got everything hung up. It was gonna be really cool that night, so I wasn't worried about the meat spoiling at all. I was worried more about any grizzlies coming up to the meat and finding it during the night. Another thing that we really had to think of and be conscious of was any sort of blood or elk scent or anything whatsoever like that on our hands, on our clothes, on our packs, anything like that we cannot have near the tent, because there's a chance a grizzly would come near our tents or into our tents that night going after that smell. So we had to go down to the creek afterwards, wash up really good, make sure everything was completely off. I ended up, I think I hung my boots up in the tree that night with our food. I hung some of my clothes up there that had just a little speck or two of blood on it. The arrows and everything stayed with the bull. My bow had to be completely cleaned of any blood or anything like that. So that's something that we really had to be mindful of that night. And it was extremely exciting, hoping a grizzly didn't find us, and even more so hoping a grizzly didn't find my first bull elk and the meat that was hanging up on the mountain overnight. No bears got to our tent that night, so we slept great, extremely thankful of that. And the next morning, we got everything ready, got our packs ready to go pack meat, we headed up the mountain to see if any bears had found the carcass, meat, or the head overnight.
Just heading up the mountain now. Gonna go see if the meat's still okay. Found a pretty good trail that should lead us fairly close to where he's at, within quarter mile, so that'll help us out a lot. Looks like we've got about a quarter mile of deadfall to go through. There should be a trail 3¼ miles all the way back to the truck. Looking good so far.
You'll have to watch all the time.
Just made it up here to the meadow. We're about 80 yards or so from where the meat is, and it all looks fine. It's still on the log. Nothing looks like it's been disturbed at all, which is really awesome. But we're gonna slowly approach it and be super aware. Make sure there's no bears around here in the trees. Timber's pretty thick along the edge of this meadow. Looking good. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. Looks good so far. Hey. Yeah, I don't see anything yet. Oh, there's a carcass. I see it. Keep an eye. Looks good so far. Okay. Looks the same.
Thankfully, no bears had got to the carcass or the meat overnight, so we're good to go. We're ready to pack meat down the mountain.
We're just getting the meat shuttled down closer to the trail so we can put it in the shade for a while and then start packing down to the creek bottom below. Got the meat in the rack, all in the shade spot here. We're just gonna pack down a couple loads down to the creek. It's about a ½ mile, and just do a couple loads to get everything down to the creek where it's a lot cooler. And from there, we'll shuttle it up the hill the next 2½ miles to the truck. Got the first load down to the creek. We're just trying to find a shady spot that's gonna be shady all day to try to keep this meat as cool as possible. It's gonna hit about 75 degrees today. There we go. Let's see if I can even make this fit. I don't know if this is how you're supposed to haul an elk head or not. Getting it all in 2 loads. Got the rack and a whole bunch of meat on my back. For those of you that are curious, I'm using a Mystery Ranch Beartooth 80. Had it a couple years and good pack, I like it. It could be a little bit bigger for what I'm doing, but so far it seems to be getting the job done. And Dad's using a Kafaru.
Now I'm 24, so I don't have an excuse for not being in shape packing this meat, but my dad turned 60 this year and he was extremely helpful packing super heavy loads and in really good shape to be able to pack all this weight uphill and help me get this bull out of the mountains, which I was super thankful for.
It's burns, but it feels so good. I've been wanting to pack an elk out like this for a really long time. Feels awesome.
I could try to take credit for this hunt and why it was successful, but to be completely honest, it had nothing to do with me. I just put in the work and God just opened the doors. Everything from finding this unit 3 years ago to scouting it over the years, not drawing last year, and then finally drawing this year, and Dad being able to go with me, which as a farmer and as harvest season comes in September, it doesn't happen every year. So him being able to be there, and then every little aspect of the hunt, from those bulls getting pushed out of there, or us pushing them out of the first basin, to my water purifier breaking, so I had to hike back out, to perfectly timing that other hunter that gave us the intel on this new spot, which is super nice of him. I mean, all those little things line up, and none of those were plans of mine anyway, but I'm thankful that God led us to those opportunities and kind of guided us through the hunt in that direction. And like I said, the day of the kill, I wasn't very confident in the location. I wasn't super confident in the south-facing slope or not finding any sign or anything like that. But in a desert of what seems like just super dry habitat with no animals, poof, there's a giant bull right there. And it's not by random happenstance by any means that elk was there. And I believe that we were guided to go up there and it was all meant to be, and thankfully this hunt happened like it was meant to be, and God gave us an amazing opportunity at an incredible animal.
Made it across the creek. Decided we're just gonna try to get this final 2.5 mile uphill push done with what we've got. And then we only have 2 pack outs left, one for meat and one for camp. Got a lot of weight on our backs though. Holy cow. That's what elk hunting's all about. Hard work.
Don't go over the side.
I'm gonna try not to. Maybe this one.
Okay.
I don't know, am I gonna fit?
Yeah. Get over. Now.
Back up.
Back it in there. Beep, 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 beep.
Oh, how far? I can't
A little
see.
more. Right there.
Please don't. Oh. Thanks. First load back. Got the first load of meat in the cooler. Drove down to town and got some ice. We're heading back down to get another load. Should be out by dark with this last load of meat. Just got down to the meat we left a couple hours ago. Everything looks good. Nothing's been touched at all, so we're gonna load it up, get out of here as fast as possible before dark sets in.
I think both are 60.
Yeah, yours is pretty heavy too. Just that hind quarter.
A little bit more.
Made it to the truck just in time.
This hunt means more to me than any other hunt I've ever been on in my life. And that's because I was able to share it with my dad, the one who brought me up in the outdoors. Growing up in Nebraska, he would take me out shed hunting and whitetail hunting. So I always grew up in the outdoors, and over the years, it's really become more of a passion than just a hobby. Something that I think about all year round, something that I work for and work toward every single day of the year. And elk hunting is something that when I was growing up, I'd always dreamed about, like a lot of people do, growing up in the Midwest or even back east. And I've gone on 4 different elk hunts. This was the 4th one that I've been on. 3 others in Colorado, and I wouldn't say those others were unsuccessful because of how much I learned and all the knowledge I gained and the experiences I gained from those hunts, but I did not come home with any meat on those hunts. So this Wyoming hunt was the first elk hunt that I was able to take some meat and an amazing bull elk rack back with me to the Midwest, which was super incredible. To be able to go out in the wilderness and just live out there away from anybody else, away from cell phones, away from internet, away from anything, which can be a huge distraction in life. It's something I can't really describe unless you go try it, unless you go do it. And that's my favorite part about elk hunting. As much as I love photography and posting pictures on Instagram and other things like that, and sharing my passion with other people, sometimes the best thing that I can do for myself is to just unplug, disconnect, go out in the woods, and just have an unreal once-in-a-lifetime experience like elk hunting can be. 7 a.m. day 8, heading in for the last load. We have camp, the rest of our food, my bow, and then we haul the rack a couple hundred yards to the truck, and then we're out of here. It's supposed to start raining, so hopefully we can get all that done before the heavy rain comes. Made it. Oh. Got the camp back to truck. Last night we hung the rack about 10 or 15 feet in this tree. Might be able to see it up there behind me, to keep it away from not only the grizzly, but some of these black bears. We saw a big color-phased black bear last night. Could climb the tree and mess with that, but looks like it hasn't been touched at all, so gonna get that cleaned up a little bit. Here in Wyoming, we have to clean the skull really well so we don't spread chronic wasting disease. We'll get it in the truck and head home. So to sum it all up, this hunt was absolutely incredible. I can't find any other words to use to describe it but that. And it just means so much to me because the guy that had brought me up in the outdoors and that I grew up hunting with was able to go along with me and and have laughs and have good times and share it with me. And he's the one that called this elk in, and I still just can't believe it, seeing that giant, beautiful elk rack staring at me in the middle of that sunlit meadow is something that'll be burned in my mind forever. But being able to come home with that animal, come home with that rack and the meat is just, I still just can't even believe it. And that's what hunting is for me. This elk meat is the best meat I've ever had in my life, and I'm not even kidding when I say that. And the experience is better than anything I've ever had. And just going out there and kind of living in the wild, you gain a whole new sense of appreciation for all that we have in life. And I certainly gained a huge appreciation for everything. I remember just coming back from that almost in disbelief in just the encounters that happened, in the way that it all went down. It was unbelievable. It was amazing. And that's why I love adventure. That's why I do what I do all year round, to prepare for this, to prepare to have those almost life-altering trips, adventures, and experiences through bow hunting that I can't get anywhere else. That's why I'm a bow hunter.